friends, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Stacy and I am the Chapter Conundrum, and today I'm joined by my husband Jake, the bookish drummer.
Hi!
Because we want to recommend some good novellas.
Some great novellas.
Some good and some great novellas.
Well, yours are going to be good, but mine are going to be great.
Excuse me? You stole some of mine on this list.
Well, you're probably going to steal some of mine.
Probably. But anyway, we're here to talk about some novellas we both, or one of us, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. You're up.
I gotta go. Okay, well, let's start with one that I love and you hated. You DNF'd it.
Oh, no.
And maybe some people would call this a novel, but I think it's short enough to be called a novella. And that would be Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. A classic for a reason. This is just... this is going to sound funny because you DNF'd it, but I think this is a book that everyone should read. Everyone should at least give it a shot because it's an amazing story. It's got a lot to say. It's just one of the best sci-fi novels ever written. And yeah, I love it a lot. And you did not like it.
I couldn't get to the plot. Where is the plot? It's buried under mountains and mountains of description that I was not following because I don't visualize while I read. The annoying part is I'd probably enjoy the story if it got to the story. But yeah, we just spent too much time going on and on about describing everything, and I did not care.
Ray Bradbury is one of my all-time favorite writers, and this is definitely one of his best ones, probably his most popular work. And yeah, I highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't read it.
That likes description in their books.
Europe, the country. Or the continent. Europe's not a country. I'll see myself out.
Next up, I'm going to talk about one that we both enjoyed, and that is Requiem for a Star by U.G. Gutman. And this is associated with the Dawnless Night series, so it's a prequel to Winds of Strife, but you don't have to have read Winds of Strife to fully enjoy this. And actually, I think a lot of people who love this are people who have not yet read Winds of Strife, so it's a good introduction point to the series. I had read it before Winds of Strife and I was not confused about anything. There were a few references that I could tell in passing, like people who had read the novel would understand a little bit more of, but I got the gist of it and it made me more curious to pick up the novel.
And as someone who really enjoyed the novel, jumping into the novella was also a lot of fun, so it can be read either way.
Yeah, so this follows Nova and it's like a coming of age situation. But it also deals with the backstory of one of the characters from Winds of Strife.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, read it. And if you read this one, don't skip the author's note because it adds a whole other dimension to everything you just read.
Next up for me is yet again another novella that you did not love, but this is an all-time favorite horror novella for me, and that would be Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. Stephen Graham Jones can either be... He kind of has like two veins that he can write in. He's got kind of like a literary side, and he's got kind of like a fun horror kind of deal. And this one for me is just black comedy at its best. Night of the Mannequins deals with kind of these teenagers, and they kind of come across this random mannequin, and they decide to play a prank on some people with this mannequin. It goes out of control, nuts, and I love this story. It's very short.
I liked it, but I didn't love it, so I'm going to correct you on that. But also, I think with this one, my main complaint was that it wasn't a novel because I wanted more detail and character motivation and everything like surrounding the story. So yeah.
It's great.
Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about one that you haven't read yet, I don't think, and that is How to Defeat a Demon King in 10 Easy Steps by Andrew Rowe. And this was a really fun time for me. So essentially in this world, you have a demon king who is on like this perpetual cycle. He spawns. And then 100 years later, a hero is supposed to like arise and defeat him. But in this cycle, the demon king has already taken over like a significant portion of the world. And the timeline is sort of escalated, but there's no hero yet. And so our main character decides, okay, I'm going to have to be the one to deal with this and do what I can to save the world. So essentially this kind of is like a lit RPG where it's like sort of inside a video game, but it's not like overt in that sense. But I loved it because it drew inspiration from a lot of classic video games that I grew up playing. So things like Zelda, for sure. But yeah, it was just a really fun time, and I loved the Easter eggs and throwbacks.
And you've been wanting me to read this for a while.
It's a great readathon pick.
I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah.
Next up for me, we've got a mutual favorite. I think we both give this novella 5 stars. That would be not the whole book of Different Seasons. I'd give it the whole book 5 stars, but you specifically love, and
Rita
I do as well,
Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Great novella, great movie, just one of the best stories ever told, in my opinion. And yeah, it's a mutual favorite for King, which is kind of rare for both of us.
Yeah.
It's just a really great novella.
Read it and watch the movie too.
And also, the rest of the novellas are great, but you don't think so.
Mixed experience. Next up, I want to talk about a romance novella I really loved, and it's The Prospect by Lyssa Kay Adams. And essentially, in this contemporary, you have a girl who's kind of like in a baseball training camp city, and like the rule of thumb for all the girls in this city is don't go falling in love with a prospect because they're just gonna leave. But in comes a scenario where she does, and it's kind of how everything in their relationship goes from there. But I loved it for many reasons. I think it didn't shy away from the couple kind of like having to overcome some real stuff, and I liked sort of the heartfelt, like more serious tone that some of it had as well.
I have nothing to add.
He's not a romance reader.
Next up for me, I'm going to talk about 2 novellas, both by the same author. I think you've read one of them and really liked it, but not the other one. I'm talking about Brando Sando. And generally, I will say I prefer his novels to his short fiction, but he does have some great novellas, including The Emperor's Soul.
That's
which,
the one I've read.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree that's one of the best things Sanderson has written. Novella. It's kind of, it takes place like on the same world as Elantris, except vastly different scenarios. It's been a long time since I've read it, but I do remember really enjoying it. And then the other one would be Dawn Shard, which is a Stormlight novella. His other Stormlight novella,
Edge Dancer.
It
follows Lift.
A lot of people don't like it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But Dawn Shard follows some of my all-time favorite Stormlight characters, including Lopin, which, if you know who Lopin is, he's one of my favorites, and this one is really good. And yeah, Sanderson, I'll just say I prefer his novels to most of his short fiction, but if you're going to read some short Sanderson stuff, Emperor's Soul and Dawn Shard are both really good.
Continuing on with the romance train, I want to recommend The Emperor of Evening Stars by Laura Thalassa. This is the number 2.5 in the Bargainer series. And basically, one of the things I love in a romance is when we get both POVs. And throughout the novels, you just get Callie's POV, but the novella is from the Bargainer's POV, and that made it really extra special. And it also delved into some kind of like character backstory reveals of things that you had been hinted at in the series, and it was just satisfying to finally get more information and finally get his perspective.
Moving on, some novellas that we have both read and both really enjoy by the same author again would be Sylvain Neville with The Test and No Kindness Too Soon. Both, for me, 5-star novellas. I think it's been a while since I've read both of them, but I remember the feeling I had reading No Kindness Too Soon, and I think I like that a bit more.
I liked it more, but I do still really enjoy The Test as well. And I think if I were to reread this, it would hit a little bit different now that I have dealt with the immigration process.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sylvain Neville, for me, can do no wrong. He's written great novels and novellas, especially No Kindness Too Soon. That one was just... And also, this one's only available through Audible. And the full cast narration and just the
And just the
and just the direction it goes in is really cool. It's kind of a cool story to go in not knowing anything about. Same thing with The Test, really. I mean, you kind of give it away a little bit.
All I said was it deals with the immigration process, which doesn't tell you much. Basically, they're going in for a test related to their immigration process.
And things happen.
Yeah, things happen.
But yeah, if you want to check out some cool sci-fi novellas, check out Sylvain Neville.
Speaking of another novella that's an Audible only situation, I want to talk about Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this is a really interesting premise. I feel like she has interesting premises sometimes. But essentially, this is a situation where there's two married couples, and the spouses from each of the couple have cheated with each other. And the other spouse of one of this couple finds out and writes a letter to the other one who doesn't know yet. And this novella is a lot about their correspondence to each other and them being able to like commiserate and identify and reflect with each other. And it's just really cool. It's cool to see them build a relationship based on a hard situation. And it's just cool in the way that they can empathize and comfort each other, I think.
So I basically love everything that she writes. This is my least favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it's not because I didn't like it, but I wish she would have took that premise and made it into a novel.
I could see
It's
that,
one of
but
it's one of the rare things where like I wished it was longer.
yeah, I mean, I would have enjoyed it longer too, but I think it gave me enough as it is, and I enjoyed it.
I wanted more.
Well, that's a good complaint to have.
Next up for me, and I think you're gonna talk about one of these as well. We've got some Song of Shattered Sands novellas. So some Sherikai novellas by Bradley P. Bolio.
Yeah.
I think probably our mutual favorite would be The Doors at Dusk and Dawn. This is just one of the best fantasy novellas ever written. But there's also The Last Days of Old Sherikai.
And In the Village Where Bright Wine Flows.
So if you don't know, Song of Shattered Sands is a 6-book novel series, but he also has a lot of companion novellas. Seven of them,
I think,
that are also really good, and they actually add a lot to the story. Sometimes you get novellas and they're all just kind of random side stuff that you don't have to read them, but for these, they really add a lot to the actual narrative. So I would argue
some of the characters too. Like this one is from Darzada's POV, so this is kind of like Cheetah's mentor / father figure.
Yeah, and this one is kind of more like a prequel, and you get a lot of like, you meet them in the series, but they're a lot older, and you kind of figure out how they get a hold of something, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
And this one kind of actually takes place after the events of the whole series kind of wraps up. And
and that was really satisfying for me.
Yeah, so the novellas add a lot, which sometimes in other series they don't, but these ones are very important.
These three in particular are my favorites of the series. There was a couple that I didn't love as much, but these three were bangers. Next up, we're going to talk about something that was a novella, but that is now part 1 of a novel. So I'm not sure if it's been entirely reworked. I haven't reread it yet to find out. But when I read this, it was a novella that was intended as a trilogy of novellas. And that is The Goners, which is now part 1 of The Boatmore Butcher by L. Stevenson. And this was a fun horror situation that I actually read when I had no power. So I was reading by candlelight, and one of the early scenes in it is like this guy being chased through a tunnel and the lights are flickering, and so it was extra like atmospheric. The vibes were point on, and you guys thought I was completely insane for reading it with powers out.
That's funny.
But yeah, it deals with a serial killer called the Boatmore Butcher.
Definitely slasher vibes here. And yeah, The Goners, when I read it, gave it 4 stars. It was really gruesome, really fast-paced, really a lot of interesting and fun kills. And then the ending definitely leaves more to be desired, which now we got the full-length novel, which we're actually going to be reading in October for the Throw, Chill, or Kill book club, which will be a lot of fun.
So join us. But yes, when I read part 1 of this as a novella, I had a great time with it as well.
My favorite author of all time, if you guys aren't aware, is not Stephen King, but a lot of people think it is, but actually it's George R.R. Martin. And the reason why, he's my favorite author of all time, not just because of A Song of Ice and Fire, but he has a lot of short stories and novellas that I love, and including Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is a prequel to A Song of Ice and Fire, which is comprised of 3 novellas that take place about 100 years before the events of book 1. And they're a little bit different in tone. I would say it's more kind of lighter in tone, maybe more like a classic feel, but really fun characters and really just great storytelling and characters as always. And yeah, it adds a lot to the series in my mind. You haven't read them yet.
No, but I do know that they follow Dunk and Egg, and the egg is Aegon Targaryen.
When he's real little.
Yeah.
So,
but
yeah.
I don't know who Dunk is.
Well, you'll figure it out when you read them.
Oh, Raffo.
Yeah.
So next up, I want to talk about a Tchaikovsky novella that I absolutely love, that I also pushed you into and that you liked, and that is Ogres. And this is a fun one, but it's better to kind of go in not knowing much. Just know you get put into a situation and you get some context up front, but the more you read, the more layers to the situation you unpeel. And it's very satisfying to piece everything together, and it kind of blew my mind in some ways. And I just really enjoyed the experience of that whole thing.
Ogres are like onions.
Yeah, just like the Shrek thing.
Yeah.
They have layers.
Ogres was pretty good, although I kind of caught on, not super early on, but eventually I figured out what was going on, and I was right. So it didn't really blow my mind like it did a lot of people's, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Next up, speaking of Georgie Boy, my all-time favorite author, and one of the main reasons for that is because I read a lot of his older fiction that he wrote in the 70s and 80s. A lot of these are novellas, so some of my all-time favorites would be A Song for Leia, or
Leia?
whatever. A Song for Leia. One of the just weird out there is sci-fi things I've ever read. He's written a lot of weird sci-fi. Another really good one is Sand Kings. Just, like if you've read A Song of Ice and Fire, you know how well he is at writing villains or like psychopathic characters. Sand Kings, like, that's what that is. And then Night Flyers is just super weird, super out there. So yeah, a lot of his short stories and novellas, those three that I just listed, just some of my all-time favorite novellas.
Also, I would add, if you want something really cozy and cute that's illustrated, you should check out The Ice Dragon.
Yeah, that one kind of on the borderline of short story novella, but that one's also very good.
It's good. And then the last one I want to mention requires that you're caught up on the Dresden Files, because it is The Law by Jim Butcher. And I think that this was a very needed installment in the series. There's a pretty major event that happens in Battleground, and I would say it's polarizing. I thought that the ramifications of that event were very interesting to explore. And The Law is a novella that really kind of delves into those ramifications a little bit more. And I thought it gave the story a bit more breathing room that it needed, because Battleground is very fast-paced overall. And I also appreciated that it's a separate novella and that it didn't necessarily make the next novel in the series slower, because earlier in the series, like, Changes is like the banger of a novel, and then the next two novels following are kind of slower and they weren't my favorite. And so I like that he's approached this a little bit differently. And yeah, really liked The Law.
And the last one I'll have to go with is the most recent read on this list. It technically says it's a novel, but I kind of count anything as less than 200 pages as a novella. And this one clocks in at about 170 pages. So I'm going to go with The Unworthy by Austina Batsrika, the author of one of my all-time favorite horror novels, Tender as the Flesh. This one I didn't like quite as much, but I still gave it the full 5-star treatment. And I really liked the writing style. I loved how weird it got. I loved just the directions it went in. I don't want to give too much away, but if you love some weird out there horror, definitely check out The Unworthy and just ignore novel right there. It's a novella, trust me.
Well, it's novella length, and if you're here looking for short reads for a readathon, it still suits.
Also the audible or the audio is like 4 hours. So I count that as a novella.
And the last one I'm going to talk about today is from a series we have both read and enjoyed, and it is Pile of Bones from The Legends of the First Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. Now, this is something you can read first before book one, not knowing anything, but I recommend, if you are someone like me who likes to have a little bit more context in order to fully appreciate something, I recommend you read it after book one, Age of Myth. And this is a novella that follows two of our characters from the series, Suri and Mina, on some adventures through the forest.
And that's all you need to know.
Yeah. So that was it for all of the novellas we wanted to recommend today. Let us know down below in the comments if you have also read and enjoyed any of these, or what additional novellas or short things you would recommend that would be great for a readathon.
What not readathons? What novellas would you recommend to us specifically?
Yeah, please not Murderbot.
No, that's one of the most overrated. You know what? Let's not get into that. Holy crap!
I did that for the reaction. Yeah, we both tried it and didn't really like it.
No.
Yeah. But that was it for the novellas we had to recommend today. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way out if you want to, and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.